Okay, so this week we're going to talk quite a bit about slope. On Friday, you did your slope dudes and introduced the slope dudes to throughout the campus. You guys did a great job. I was very impressed with the artistic creativity that a lot of you had, especially fourth period. Fourth period, you guys did an outstanding job overall. So right now what we're going to do is I want to go through the slope, how to find slope using a graph, and how to find slope using the slope formula. So let's go ahead and begin. Now here this says 7.4. Don't worry about that. It has nothing to do with your class. This is just an old PowerPoint that I like to use. But the objectives of this particular PowerPoint, what that means is what you need to understand when you're done watching this PowerPoint is how to find the slope of a given line through given 2 points of the line. And also to describe the slope for horizontal and vertical lines. Again, I do recommend highly that you start taking notes. Okay, this is some time that you should start taking notes. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so slope. When we talk about the word slope, we're dealing a lot of times with graphs. Okay, we're dealing with, you know, a linear graph, not just graphs, but a linear graph, a graph that makes a line. So the first thing we need are 2 points, and then if we draw our line, we'll see our line right there. Okay, so we want to find the slope. Well, I told you before, and we've introduced this already a little bit, that slope is the rise divided by the run. So the rise is the up value, and the run is the left and right value. Okay, the rise can also be down. Okay, you can also go down. I know it sounds awkward because rise usually means to get up. When we talk about rise, if you have a negative rise, that means you're going downward. Okay. So slope equals rise over run. You'll hear that a lot, or rise divided by run. Alright, so we're going to graph a line containing these points. You're going to do a lot of this in class on Monday. So you're going to take these 2 points and you're going to put them on the graph. So we're going to plot a point at 2.1. Okay, you go over 2, up 1. Then we're going to plot a point at 7 and 6. So go over 7 and then up 6 and put a point. So now we want to find the slope. Well, in order to find the slope, we've got to have a line. So put our line there. And now we've got to figure out the rise divided by the run. It's very simple, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my rise is 5. That's where this 5 comes in. Then you're going to count the run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's where this 5 comes in for your run. So your slope is 5 divided by 5, or 5 over 5. Now, when you're dealing with slope and you're writing an equation, or if we're just asking you to identify the slope, you need to reduce if possible. So you should know that 5 divided by 5, any number over itself, is a whole number. So it equals 1. So the slope of this particular line is 1. Alright, that's it. So now, on your own, I recommend and encourage you to practice finding the slopes of these lines. Just grab a sheet of paper, plot these points on a graph, okay, and find the slope of a line. Go ahead and pause the video while you do that to get some practice. Okay, so we just covered slope equals the rise over the run, or rise divided by run. We do that when we're looking at a graph. But it's also the change in y coordinates over the change in x coordinates. That's the same thing as rise over run. That's the same thing as change in y over change in x. There's a lot of different ways to say these things. Okay? But this still indicates fractions, if you didn't know this already, indicate a division problem. Okay? So still a division problem. Now what happens if we're just given 2 coordinates and we don't want to graph it? Because I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of graphing all the time. Now you will have to graph. That will be mandatory from time to time. But if you are given a set of coordinates, 2 sets of coordinates, you can use the slope formula in order to solve your slope. So you would use y2. That means the y value from the second coordinate minus the y value from the first coordinate divided by the x value from the second coordinate minus the x value from the first coordinate. That's what x1 means. Now, I know it happens every year. Some of you guys are saying, well, can I do y1 minus y2 and x1 minus x2? Yeah, that is possible. You can do that. as long as they're in the right order. That's the key. They've got to be x. If you do y1 right here, then x1 has to be below it. y2 right here, x2 has to be right below it. Now, I don't recommend you change the order. I would just use this order. This is pretty common. This is the standard order. This is what most people will associate the slope formula with. And the reason is that if you put y2 and x2 first, it usually makes it easier when you're doing your computation, because usually if you have a negative number, that negative number is going to be in that y2 or x2. Okay. All right, we just talked about that. And notice how these are in the right order. y1 over x1 and then y2, x2. Okay. All right, so let's find the slope of a line containing 2 points. Now, again, this is not for graphing. We have the order pairs 1, 6, and we have the order pair 5, 4, and we just a second ago we just graphed these and found the slope by using rise over run, which is very simple. But generally speaking, we only want to use rise over run if we are given a graph. So when you're given 2 order pairs, you want to go ahead and just plug this into the slope formula. So here we go. Always start off by writing your slope formula, m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and plug it in. Usually, and this is a PowerPoint, so I can't really show you this, but I will at school, but usually I label my points. I'll just write up here above each point x1, y1, x2, y2, because the biggest thing that students make a mistake on is they'll say this is x1, x2, and y1, y2, but we all know that order pairs have to have an x value and a y value. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you just plug it in. So y2 is 4 minus y1 is 6, and then x2 is 5 minus 1, which is x1. And then you just work it out. 4 minus 6 is negative 2, and 5 minus 1 is 4. And again, just like before, if you can reduce, you must reduce. So negative 2 over 4 becomes negative 1 over 2, or negative 1/2. And that's our slope. Alright, so here's a couple for you to practice on your own. Go ahead and pause the video, and I recommend doing these 2 or 3 things. Now, we're not really going to talk about this, honestly, until Tuesday, but it's good to go ahead and get a head start. And again, you should be writing this stuff in your notes. Okay, so what about the slope of a horizontal line? Okay, the slope of a horizontal line. Well, we've already talked about that with our slope dude. If you remember your slope dude's mouth, he has the horizontal line with the 2 zeros at the end. So your horizontal line looks like that. It's plotted through any y point, one particular y point. And you know you have a horizontal line too if you're looking at coordinates. And every y value is 4, because this is negative 4 over 4 up, negative 2 over 4 up, 0 over 4 up, 2 over 4 up, 4 over 4 up, 6 over 4 up, and on and on and on and on forever. But every y value is 4. That indicates that you have a horizontal line. And what you would do is you go to the 4, plot you a point, and draw a horizontal line through that 4. Generally, the graphs of a horizontal line look like y equals a number. Okay, so the question is, what is the slope for that if it's just y equals a number? Well, let's take the rise over run. We have 2 points, any 2 good points. Okay, what is the rise? Does it go up or down at all? No, so it's 0. You do have a run. Okay, the run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so your run is 6. Now, if I put this into my slope equals rise over run formula, I end up with 0 divided by 6. Now, I want you to listen carefully, because this is the difference between 0 slopes and undefined slopes. If in my calculator I put 0 divided by 6, you will end up with a 0. It's very important, because mathematically you can divide 0 by any number, but the answer is always going to be 0. So the slope for a horizontal line is always 0. This is a piece that you need to memorize. You need to memorize that, so you don't even have to do any work. You don't have to think about it. You just know horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Alright, so what about vertical lines then? Again, if we look back at our slope dude, on our slope dude, we had his nose that was a vertical line straight up and down with a little U underneath it. So a vertical line we said is undefined. But basically when we had a vertical line, we take a x value like x equals 6, and we draw a line, a vertical line straight through it, up and down, and every one of these has an x value of 6. So like this is 6 over -4 down, 6 over -2 down, 6 over 0 down, just like the horizontal line, except this time all the same values are in the x area. So what is the slope of a horizontal, what is the slope of a vertical line? Well, let's take 2 points again. Let's do it again. Can I find the rise? Absolutely. The rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the rise is 5. Now in this case, what is the run? Can I find a run? Is it going left or right at all? The answer is no. So my run now is 0. If I put this into my slope equals rise over run formula, I end up with 5 divided by 0 this time. In the horizontal one, we had 0 on the top. Now we have 0 on the bottom. You cannot divide a number by 0. It is impossible. If you plug this into your calculator and you put 5 divided by 0, you will end up with an error. If you end up with an error, that means there is no solution. It's impossible. So we call this undefined. This is called an empty set, which is no solution. Or again, the slope of any vertical line is undefined. This, again, these are special cases that you need to memorize. But just remember, in all of math, anytime you have 5 divided by 0 or any number divided by 0, the answer will always be no solution or undefined. It is impossible to divide a number by 0. Okay, so let's find the slope of y equals -4. To graph this, we would just go to -4 on the y-axis, plot us a point. Oh, sorry, that was +4. Plot a point and draw a line horizontally. Through this point. Is there a run? Yes, but is there a rise? What's the rise? The rise is 0. The run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 0 over 5. In my calculator, if I do 0 divided by 5, I end up with 0. But it's a horizontal line. I should know right away that it is 0 slope. Let's do the vertical line. Whenever you see x equals 7, you just go to 7 on the x-axis and plot a vertical line through it. Okay, let's give us 2 points. And again, once you memorize this, you don't have to put these points in there and try to figure it out. You should just know automatically by memory. But I don't want you to miss these because you're not doing it right. So, what's the rise? The rise is 1, 2, 3. What's the run? It's 0. Okay, it doesn't go left or right at all. So 3 divided by 0 is undefined. Empty set, no solution. Alright, so practice these ones on your own. See if you notice anything significant about this particular set of ordered pairs right there. But you guys find these slopes on your own. Okay, so that concludes our presentation on slope. We do have one other way to find slope, or rate of change, and that's going to be through a table, which we'll talk about later on the week. I hope you learned a lot from this, and again, if you didn't take notes the first time, I recommend going back through it and taking notes. See you guys on Monday.